And welcome to day 25 in the Atlantic hurricane season, day 43 in the Eastern Pacific, and that's the only location where we've got action going on at the moment in the form of Tropical Storm Cosme as a tropical storm at the moment, and is intensifying rather steadily to become perhaps a hurricane in the next few days. As a matter of fact, it's quite likely now that Cosme will become a hurricane in the next 24 hours. That's the worldwide map at the moment. Nothing else going on anywhere at the moment apart from Cosme as you see it here in the Pacific Ocean. Satellite imagery, we had Invest 95E yesterday, but that's been declassified. That was yesterday, it was declassified, and it's still, you can still sort of see it in the shadow of Cosme towards the east of that storm. But obviously not much left of it now, and it's not likely to form, of course. The Atlantic Ocean still remains very quiet at the moment. You can see here not much going on at all, even in terms of cloud cover. There's a lot of blue skies around the Atlantic at the moment, especially in the tropical region where there's just not much really going on just at the moment. But that's to be expected because it's still a quiet part of the year in the middle of June at the moment, towards the end of June as a matter of fact, of course, and still no storms likely to form before. Oh, not many storms likely to form before around the August time. So Indian Ocean fairly quiet as well. In the northern Bay of Bengal is where most of the weather's occurring, and still not much going on in terms of tropical weather going on there at the moment. The sea surface temperatures, the eastern Pacific waters remaining warm at the moment, around 30 degrees off the Mexican coastline, though it has to be noted that where the Storm Cosme is going at the moment, towards the end of its forecast track, that's expected to go over cold waters, so of course it will dissipate much quicker. Towards the northern Bay of Bengal, still warm waters here, 28 degrees or above, and around the Philippines, warm waters remaining here, 30 degrees or more around this area in particular. So here's Tropical Storm Cosme, the third storm of the Pacific hurricane season, currently with winds of 60 miles per hour as of midnight UTC, June the 25th, with a pressure of 995 millibars, and it's likely to become a hurricane, a Category 1 hurricane, in around 24 hours time or less, and remain a Category 1 storm as it moves off to the east for a little period, and then start to weaken as it moves out over colder waters over the eastern Pacific. At the moment, the forecast does call for Cosme to peak as a mid to high-end Category 1 storm. The chances of it becoming a hurricane is around 73% according to the National Hurricane Centre's probabilities at the moment. Category 2, 25%, Category 3 at 8% at the moment, and Category 4 as a 1% chance at the moment in terms of where this storm will go. So the Eastern Pacific, the satellite imagery then, you can see here both Invest 95E as it degenerates off to the east. You can see it best towards the very start of that loop, and of course Cosme, which is a much bigger storm by quite a bit of magnitude compared to 95E, and that's moving off to the west-northwest, of course, and you can see it getting its act together in that satellite imagery, especially towards the end on that visible there. You can see it really starting to strengthen. The CMC model then predicts Cosme moving off to the west-northwest and then curving back towards the west, and perhaps a little bit of a south element in that, and another system following behind that you saw at the end there, perhaps becoming another tropical storm or hurricane in the Eastern Pacific. The ECMWF is also predicting something similar. You can see Cosme moving off to the west there, and also a little storm off the Mexican coastline at the very end of that loop there. You can see there. The GFS model predicts Cosme to move off to the west-northwest, fairly in line with the model predictions, with the official forecast prediction at the moment, and that next system forming behind it, stalling a little bit out in the Western Pacific before moving off to the west as well. The NavGem model, there it has it, taking Cosme off to the west-northwest, and that system at the back as well. So that'll be very interesting to see what happens with that system, because it could pose a threat potentially to the Mexican coastline. But taking one storm at a time, the TFDR model here shows the storm reaching perhaps high tropical storm strength, low hurricane strength as it moves towards the west-northwest, and the next storm behind that becoming a tropical storm as well. The HWRF fairly similar in terms of Cosme moving it to the west-northwest as a hurricane, low-end hurricane Category 1 storm in the next 3 or 4 days. Taking a look at the overall Predictor season scores then, June the 25th, obviously with the new storm, that will take scores up or indeed down. The full table is on the website, but the top three at the moment: Ken with 104, Typhoon Boba with 96, and Hurricane Melissa 20 with 94 points. You can submit your own predictions on the Force 13 website /interactive, and you can go to the 2013 Predictor season button, and that will take you straight to the submission tables where you can submit your own totals. It's certainly not too late at this point. It is June, time is getting on, and points will be dwindling as time goes on, so I'd get your predictions in as soon as you can. So what happened on this day on June the 25th, 1974, Subtropical Storm 1 pictured there, making landfall in Florida, causing 3 fatalities and $10 million in damages. In 1977, Tropical Storm Bernice, that's also pictured there, formed in the Eastern Pacific. In 1978, Hurricane Carlotta dissipated in the Eastern Pacific, and in 1979, the next year, Tropical Storm Blanca also dissipated in the Eastern Pacific. Obviously, very active around this time of year, the Eastern Pacific in particular. In 1980, Tropical Storm Celia formed in the Eastern Pacific. In 1984, Tropical Storm Douglas also formed there. In 1986, pictured Hurricane Bonnie making landfall in Texas at its Category 1 peak intensity, causing 3 fatalities and $2 million in damages. Then in 1991, Hurricane Dolores peaked as a Category 1 storm, also in the Eastern Pacific. You can see that one there pictured as well, off the Mexican coast there, in similar position actually to the current Storm Cosme. In 1992, Tropical Depression 1 formed in the Gulf of Mexico. 97, Tropical Storm Carlos formed. In 98, Blas peaked as a Category 4 storm. In 2000, Carlotta dissipated in the Eastern Pacific, and Tropical Depression 2 also dissipated in the Atlantic, I think that was. 2010, Depression 1 formed in the Caribbean. Also, Darby peaked as a Category 3 storm, and Tropical Storm Doksuri formed in the Western Pacific last year in 2012. Don't forget that you can track any storm that forms on the Force 13 website, including Tropical Storm Cosme at the moment. force13.com/storm tracking.html will take you straight to the storm tracking page, where we have an overview map with all the current storms overlaid on there. Of course, there's only one at the moment, but when the tropics get going in the Northern Hemisphere, it'll be all lit up with the storm names. And we also have some tables which show you at a glance quite easily what storms are active and any warnings that are in place. And then you can go further in depth, basin by basin, to take a look at where the storms are going, the storm tracking maps, and of course any warning information as that becomes relevant and obviously needed in times of storm landfall interaction and such. And don't forget, you can visit all the other pages as well, YouTube, Facebook and Twitter, on Force 13. Just search Force 13 on those and you should find us fairly easily enough. And don't forget to show your support by following, liking, subscribing and favouriting all the videos and such. And it's very much appreciated. Thank you very much for all those who have done so already, and don't forget you can submit your comments as well on the YouTube videos, and I'll certainly get back to them if they are relevant to the storms, of course. Don't forget, the next bulletin will be coming up at the same time tomorrow around midnight UTC on Wednesday, June 26th, and if necessary there'll be an update in between of Tropical Storm Cosme in the Eastern Pacific.